I think if any team, though, that they faced so far can give them their first loss, it's the Blue Jays. And I'm looking forward to, I'm predicting a two-win series for the Jays. I think they're going to take two or three.
Welcome to Station, our Blue Jays series recap show here on Organized Chaos Sports. The Jays welcomed the undefeated and 13-0 Tampa Bay Rays to the Rogers Center for a three-game set this past weekend. Was Dustin right about his prediction as to how this series would go? Stay tuned to find out, and thank you for listening. Jays Rays. The Rays came in 13-0 into the Rogers Center on Friday for a three-game set against the Jays. No roster changes to speak of, and actually very few lineup changes. So we have Espinal on second, Jansen catching, and Belt as the DH. Dustin, we got a pitching matchup of Drew Rasmussen versus the mercurial Jose Barrios. Uh, Maybe give me some thoughts on what happened this game.
Well, this one coming into it, we thought was going to be the toughest one out of the three. I thought didn't end up that way. Barrios really, seemed to show what we all think he can be, and just really had a great game. If it wasn't for that uh, comebacker, he would have went a lot. I think maybe another inning or so. Um, it was just a nice, refreshing kind of win to get started against, the seemingly unbeatable Rays.
Well, up to that point, they were unbeatable, and I was very happy to get that first game in the bag. I think a little bit of nervousness probably amongst the fan base because of Barrios starting, but I think the Jays definitely put their best foot forward in this game. So let's get into this. So Springer starts the game in really the best way possible with a leadoff home run. This is actually his 53rd leadoff home run in his career, tying Craig Biggio for third all time. So Bo comes to the plate after Kiermaier in the bottom of the second, and he actually gets a ground rule double, which turns out it was actually his 500th hit. On the play, Kiermaier scores. And just to note, that 500 career hit is actually Bo was actually the fastest to do this with the Jays, and the inning ends 2-0. Barrios has four strikeouts through three innings, and he's looking really sharp. Uh, Tampa really didn't really seem to be able to touch him, and he really seemed to kind of avoid the issues he's had in previous games, just leaving the ball over the plate.
When he can locate the fastball, everything else kind of works for him after that. I think that, we talked about that in the past. That's what his trouble has been, is that fastball, leaving it in the middle, and it's just super hittable. When he can put some movement on it, I think he threw a lot more two seamers this game. It's just, you can see the results that he can get from it.
So Tampa scores a run in the top of the fourth off an RBI single. So we have a 2-1 game. But then the Jays really break it open in the bottom of the fifth with a Bo single, Vladdy singles as well. Varsho walks, so the bases are now loaded. Drew Rasmussen is then replaced in the bottom of the fifth by Colin Poche. Kirk walks, and as the bases are loaded, Bo scores. Espinal walks, Vladdy scores. Then Jansen reaches on a fielder's choice and an error by Brandon Lowe. Really play that should have been an out. And on that particular play, Varsho and Kirk score, and that brings the inning to a 6-1. That's their lead at that point. So they really broke it out in that inning. and it seemed like the catalyst for that inning was basically walks, and then in turn that error by Tampa. I think the really Tampa, we're flipping the page on them this year a little bit.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter say that the Jays raised the Rays, and I repeated it, I think, to you guys in our group chat. Yeah, they're really just doing to the Rays what the Rays have done to us. I mean, as far as I can remember, um, getting a little bit of luck and just, you know, hitting those timely hits and just being that little tenacious team that the Rays can be. I think the Jays are kind of turning into that team here this year.
Well, I guess it's something that Tampa Bay kind of has to do. They have to be fundamental. They don't have a lot of money to throw around, and it seems like they scout well, they draft well, and they always have a plan every season. Now, top of the seventh, Tampa gets a couple solo home runs to bring the game to 6-3, but that was it for scoring. Uh, Romano comes in the ninth inning and gets his fifth save. Pitching line for Jose Barrios, who of course was the winning pitcher in this game. Losing pitcher is Drew Rasmussen. His pitching line: 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts. So not very many walks, few hits, more than a strikeout per inning. So really a really good outing for Barrios in this one.
Yeah, very encouraging, not just for the result, but just the way his pitches looked. Um, I know that Danny Jansen caught him this game, and he's been, for the most part, been caught by Kirk. So I wonder if there's a little bit of that. Maybe Danny Jansen um, is mixing his pitches differently and getting him to throw different pitches in different counts. That's helping Barrios out. So we'll see if they keep that tandem together or they just mix it up. But um, very encouraging, and I'm hoping to see more of this from Barrios going forward.
Game two, not very many lineup changes again. We have Kirk at DH, Whit Merrifield at second base, and Jansen at catcher. Pitching matchup: Calvin Faucher versus Yusei Kikuchi, and Kikuchi comes into this game 1-0 with a 6.75 ERA, and his WHIP is 1.5. I think this is really a key game in the series, or at least it turned out to be, with the Jays grabbing another victory.
Yeah, big win by Kikuchi and the team. I think this was kind of that team win. Um, this whole series, the Jays kind of spread the love in terms of the hits and RBIs, etc. But again, another encouraging win from Kikuchi. I'm sure we'll get into his performance a little more, but I'd love to see this Kikuchi, and hopefully we can see more of him as well doing this in the future.
So there's no scoring until the bottom of the third, where there is a Kiermaier fielder's choice. Springer follows up with that with a walk. So the game remains scoreless until the bottom of the third, where Kevin Kiermaier hits into a fielder's choice, so he ends up on first base. George Springer follows that with a walk. So we have Springer at first, Kiermaier at second, when John Schneider calls for the double steal.
Yeah, what that not expected kind of play to see from the Jays. Again, this is kind of a Raysy play, um, and they're doing it against the Rays, which is fun to see.
Well, I like the aggression that it's. I think I would call it like calculated aggression. Like they're not going to do that every time someone's on first and second, but with with both Springer and Kiermaier, you have two guys that are pretty quick, and it seemed like the right time to do that. And I was actually surprised that the catcher threw down a second because if you see the replay, Kiermaier takes off at the exact same time as Springer, and I thought maybe the catcher would throw down third. Wasn't the case, and the Rays paid for it as Kevin Kiermaier scores on a Bo Bichette infield groundout. So the Jays finished that inning 1-0. Top four, we have a Tampa Bay solo home run. But yeah, what I'd really like to highlight in this particular inning was there was a really nice diving catch in left field by Dalton Varsho.
Yeah, he laid it out there for sure. Love to see outfield, you know, acrobatics. We've seen a few guys like that in the field, but when you got Varsho, Springer, and Kiermaier, running it out there, they're all apt to do that kind of play, and you love to see it. I think the Jays are, if not the top, near the leader of defensive runs saved this year so far. And I think a lot of it is because of these guys out here doing that kind of body on putting the body on the line play.
We definitely talked about it in our season preview, where we thought the improved outfield defense would definitely net, if not a few more wins, but definitely contribute towards them. Now, bottom four, Kirk gets hit by a pitch. He then follows it up with a advancing to second base on a balk. Whit Merrifield hasn't had the greatest start to this year, but he put the basically the ball in play and a nice RBI double, which Kirk scored off of. Jansen follows it up with an RBI single. Witt scores in that particular inning, ends 3-1. We have basically an eventful bottom of the sixth following that, where Kirk walks. There's a Whitfielder's choice. Jansen is intentionally walked, and Springer walks, and Chapman scores at that point. So that particular inning ends 4-1. It actually seemed like almost a theme for this series, Dustin. That the Jays didn't really batter the Rays, but they kind of overwhelmed them, and so they get a couple guys on base or bases were loaded, and they'd score a run here, run there. They just seemed to overwhelm the Rays in the first two games.
Yeah, I think there's something about this team we haven't talked a whole lot about, and that is, they have a lot of patience at the plate. They can get on base, and when you get guys on base, you put pressure on not only the pitcher to make good pitches, but to defense, to turn double plays, and it speeds them up, all that kind of thing. So again, it's another little raisy kind of style play, which I actually like to see, and I think it's just so refreshing that we're not just waiting for the home run.
Well, and I actually think that it's the we've seen a surprising amount of wow, we've seen a surprising amount of runs scored not by the home run start. We still have sluggers in the middle of our lineup, but most of the runs seem to have come across the plate in other ways.
Yeah, some dinks and dunk kind of hits, some double steals, and um, just little things that when you do them right. I mean, I think Kiermaier himself has manufactured a couple of those kind of non-traditional runs and taking the extra base, stealing when it's opportune, that kind of thing.
Well, and the team also seems to be focused on hitting to the opposite field. That seems to be a core part of what they're doing. So, taking whatever bases they can get out of those hits rather than turning on pitches and trying to put them in the seats. Now, top of the seventh, Kikuchi is replaced by Eric Swanson. So we have a Kikuchi pitching line of 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 4 hits, 9 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Um, and of note, Kikuchi has actually only had 1 walk in each of his outings. So I think that's definitely something to highlight.
Yeah, that walk to K rate is beautiful to see, and it's something that I've seen in Kikuchi in terms of like the kind of stuff that he has, the velocity that he has, the pitch mix that he can throw out there. You know, if he can just locate the ball, this is what you get. So it's encouraging.
So bottom of the seventh, we have a Vladdy single, followed up by a Varsho fielder's choice. Chapman then pushes Varsho to third with a single of his own, and then Alejandro Kirk with an RBI single, which Varsho scores off of. So that brings the game to 5-1. Tampa scores in the top of the eighth to bring the game to 5-2. And then Jordan Rano comes in, has a little bit of an interesting inning, seems to be a little bit common of late, but he gets his sixth save of the year, and the Jays win 5-2.
Yeah, just barely it seemed like it at the time, anyways. Um, but you know, Jordan Romano can lock it down when he needs to, and um, he was never in doubt.
So game three, following the Jays, I guess wrapping up the series win, there are a bunch of lineup changes. So Springer still in the leadoff, but he is the DH. Kirk comes in as a catcher. We have Witt in left field, so there's a rare day off for Dalton Varsho. Espinal is at second, and Jordan Lupul comes in at right field to replace Springer. Pitching matchup for this one, I think on paper was a good one. We had Shane McClanahan, who's a lefty, versus Alec Manoah. Manoah comes into the game 1-0, 4.91 ERA, 11 strikeouts, and a 1.70 whip. Not really much to say about this game. Really, I guess the first inning was kind of where this game was decided, and Tampa jumps out to a 3-0 lead following a hit by pitch, a walk, single, another walk, and a single. So not really the way Manoa would like to start a game, I don't think.
Not at all. I don't know. I don't know what's up with Manoa, and I guess we'll talk about it more in our weekly recap. But he just something about these, he puts himself into these tough spots. He can get out of it with some minimal damage, but then something, a little bit bad luck behind him. It's hard to put a finger on it. I guess if I could, I'd be, the Blue Jays pitching coach, but it's tough to see him struggle. If anyone can power through it, it's him. Hopefully, he can turn this ship around this season.
So following the 3-0 lead, the Tampa has after the top of the first. There's a Springer walk, a Bo single. I feel like I'm getting used to saying that, and a Vladimir Guerrero RBI single. So at that point, it's 3-1. But the rest of the game kind of falls apart for the Jays. Tampa scores 7 more runs to win the game 8-1. Alec Manoah's pitching line for this game: 4.2 innings pitched, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So I guess strikeouts not too bad. The rest of that was not good. Now the Jays finish out this series 10-6 and are now in third place in the AL East. They're tied with the Yanks and 4 games back from the Tampa Bay Rays. All right, before we wrap up, I want to go over our players of the series. So, Dustin, I'm going to start on this one, and I'm going to give it to Bo Bichette. He had 7 hits, including a 5 for 5 game on Friday, a couple RBIs, and a run. So Bo is keeping it going, and really, I think strengthening his position as like the likely AL hit leader again this year.
Yeah, I knew you'd give it to him. I think he's probably been the brightest spot on this team, especially this series. So no surprise you'd give it to him.
So the Jays head out on the road now for a couple series. First with the Houston Astros. Following that will be with the New York Yankees. We'll touch a little bit here on the Astros. They're coming to this series with a 7-8 record. They are third in the AL West. So game one we have Kevin Gausman. Game two Chris Bassett, and then game three Jose Barrios. So I think in terms of pitching, the Jays are pretty much putting their best foot forward in this one. The Houston Astros, of course, coming off the being a World Series champion last year, so always a team to look out for. They have some very strong offensive players. We have Jordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman. They picked up Jose Abreu this year. We have also Michael Brantley. Jose Altuve, though, is out with an injury that he sustained in the World Baseball Classic. And to note, they lost Justin Verlander to the Mets in the offseason via free agency. Um, Dustin, maybe give us some thoughts on the Astros and how you think this series is going to shake down.
Yeah, as you said, they're the defending World Series champions. Um, they're off to kind of a middling start, but don't let that fool you. They're going to be a tough team. Uh, I think I like the Blue Jays' chances with the pitching that we've got going in the series, and I'm hoping to take 2 out of 3 from this team. Because the Yankees are up next, and they're going to be tough as well. So we want to get off on a strong footing for this road trip.
This has been Station to Station here on Organized Chaos Sports. Did this episode whet your appetite for more Jays talk? If it did, our weekly review and discussion podcast will come out every Tuesday. We will dive deep into the action that occurred in the week prior and leave no stone unturned. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you share it with one friend that you think may enjoy it as well. Thank you, and until next time.